When it comes to the ongoing damage to our natural electromagnetic environment, fingers are often pointed at cell phone manufacturers, wireless carriers, or even the lack of government oversight. However, this narrative misses a crucial point. The root cause is not a conspiracy orchestrated by specific industries or regulatory bodies. Instead, it is the inherent logic of capitalism that drives this destruction. This blog explores this perspective, grounded in the insights from Jason W. Moore's paper, Waste in the Limits to Capital: How Capitalism Lays Waste to the Web of Life and Why It Can't Stop. Capitalism, by its very nature, prioritizes endless accumulation and growth. This pursuit leads to what Moore describes as a relentless laying waste to both human and extra-human nature. The introduction and proliferation of wireless technologies, which create electromagnetic radiation, are perfect examples of this process. These technologies are not merely tools for communication, but are also agents of entropic pollution, disrupting the delicate balance of our natural electromagnetic environment. The concept of entropic waste is critical in understanding the impact of wireless technology on our environment. Entropic waste refers to the degradation and disorder introduced into natural systems by human activities. Under capitalism, the production of such waste is not an accident but a necessity. Capitalist enterprises must constantly innovate and expand, often disregarding the long-term ecological consequences. Wireless technology, while revolutionizing communication, has also introduced new forms of pollution. This pollution, in the form of radio frequency radiation, permeates our surroundings, creating an entropic shock that interferes with the bioelectric coherence essential for life. Just as Moore highlights how capitalism leads to overpollution through industrial processes, the same logic applies to the proliferation of electromagnetic radiation. Blaming individual companies or regulatory bodies for the unchecked electromagnetic pollution overlooks the systemic nature of the problem. Capitalism operates within a framework of bureaucratic constraints that prioritize profit over ecological health. Regulatory bodies often lack the power or incentive to impose strict limits on electromagnetic radiation, as doing so would conflict with capitalist interests. Addressing the issue of electromagnetic pollution requires more than just better regulations or corporate accountability. It necessitates a fundamental shift in how we perceive and interact with our environment. We must move away from a system that views nature as a resource to be exploited and towards one that recognizes the intrinsic value of ecological health. Capitalism and RF radiation, a historical perspective. The current state of RF radiation and its unchecked spread is not merely a consequence of negligent oversight by cell phone makers, wireless carriers, or regulatory agencies. Instead, it is a byproduct of the capitalist system's inherent drive towards profit maximization. This system prioritizes economic growth over environmental and public health, leading to the widespread dissemination of technologies without adequate consideration of their long-term impacts. The logic of capitalism: profit over people and planet. Capitalism operates on a logic that seeks to externalize costs, whether they be environmental degradation or health risks, onto society at large. This is evident in the historical and ongoing exploitation of natural resources, labor, and now the electromagnetic spectrum. The introduction and proliferation of RF radiation is just another chapter in this long history of exploitation and externalization. The Waste-Ocene capitalism's ecological destruction. As discussed in the paper Waste in the Limits to Capital: How Capitalism Lays Waste to the Web of Life and Why It Can't Stop, capitalism's relentless pursuit of cheap nature and labor leads to the creation of waste frontiers. These are zones where the ecological and social costs of production are offloaded. The spread of RF radiation can be seen as part of this broader trend, where the unseen and long-term impacts on health and the environment are ignored in favor of short-term economic gains. A call for systemic change. Addressing the issue of EM pollution requires more than just better regulations or corporate accountability. It necessitates a fundamental shift in how we perceive and interact with our environment. We must move away from a system that views nature as a resource to be exploited and towards one that recognizes the intrinsic value of ecological health. The need for consumer awareness and action. Consumers and citizens must band together to inform each other about the risks associated with cell phone-level electromagnetic radiation. There is a significant body of research indicating potential health risks, including major studies like the Interphone Study, Hardell Group Studies, Serenat Study, U.S. National Toxicology Program, NTP, Ramazzini Institute Study, Reflex Project, Bio-Initiative Report, and the work of researchers like Dr. Henry Lai. These studies collectively suggest the need for caution in dismissing potential risks. Educating the consumer is paramount because the only way a capitalistic system will change is when consumers speak through their purchases. Capitalism will turn on a dime to address the loss of consumer confidence that threatens revenues and shareholder values. Most important is your voice. Share the facts obscured by the wireless industry and regulatory agencies, which often prioritize profits over environmental health. Share news and blogs from websites like rfsafe.com, saferemer.com, etrust.org, and microwavenews.com. Without an informed public, nothing will change. You must do your part for the sake of our future generations. The quantum decoherence caused by toxic entropic waste from wireless devices could be responsible for a significant increase in health issues, from cancer to autism. The spectrum of potential health effects is piling up as more and more research becomes available. The pioneers of the 1970s, like Dr. Robert O. Becker, were spot on in their warnings. If there wasn't the red herring stigma over non-ionizing radiation and its health effects, we'd have many more people interested in this critical issue affecting bioelectricity, EMFs, and our understanding of both. We have to use our voices and purchasing power to effect change on capitalist trends that are damaging to life and our environment. Conclusion: towards a sustainable future. To address the ecological and health impacts of RF radiation, we must challenge the underlying capitalist logic that drives technological development without regard for its consequences. This requires a fundamental shift towards valuing life and ecological integrity over profit, and the development of technologies that are in harmony with the natural world. Only by confronting these systemic issues can we hope to mitigate the damage and create a sustainable future for all. Visit RF Safe to learn more.